Level 1. The applicant. You apply online like everyone else. There's a government portal, a long form, and a warning at the top that says every lie will be treated like a crime. You type in your name, your education, your work history. Then you keep typing. Addresses going back 10 years. Names of supervisors you haven't spoken to since you quit. References who will get an unexpected phone call and suddenly realize you're trying to join something serious. You hit submit and wait. Weeks pass, then months. Your life keeps moving, but there's a quiet paranoia sitting underneath it now, because you know what comes next if they respond. You start looking at your own past like an investigator would. That dumb fight in college, that cousin who's always in trouble, that friend who borrowed money and never paid it back. You realize the Secret Service isn't just checking if you're smart. They're checking if you're clean, and if you're not clean, they're checking if you can be controlled. Then you get the email. They want you to come in. The first interview doesn't feel like Hollywood. It's a government office. Fluorescent lights, beige walls, the kind of building where every hallway smells faintly like old printer paper. A person in business attire sits across from you and starts asking questions that seem normal until they're not. Why do you want this job? How do you handle stress? Have you ever been fired? Have you ever been in debt? Have you ever been in a fight? Have you ever been pulled over? Have you ever lied on any official document? The questions come in waves, friendly first, then sharper, then quiet. They're not just listening to your answers, they're watching how you answer, how fast you speak, how defensive you get, where you hesitate, what you try to soften. They want to know one thing: what happens to you when you feel pressure? Then comes the background investigation. This part doesn't happen in the room, it happens in your life. People you forgot existed start getting contacted. Old employers, old neighbors, teachers, friends. Someone asks them what kind of person you are when nobody is watching. Someone asks them if you lose your temper, if you're careless, if you talk too much. You start realizing the Secret Service doesn't hire bad people. It hires reliable people. People who can carry responsibility without turning it into ego. People who can take orders without losing their spine. People who can stand close to power and not get intoxicated by it. Then the medical screening, the fitness testing, the psychological evaluation. Nothing here is glamorous. It's routine on purpose, because the agency is trying to see if you can follow rules for months without complaining, if you can show up on time repeatedly, if you can keep your mouth shut, if you can do the boring parts of the job. You pass, and then you get the call that changes your life. You've been selected. It feels like the finish line. It isn't. It's the front door. Level 2, the trainee. They send you to training, and the first thing you learn is that the Secret Service doesn't care about your fantasies. It cares about your habits. Habits under stress. Habits when you're tired. Habits when your heart is racing and you have to make a decision anyway. Your days become repetitive and heavy. Early mornings. Physical conditioning. Classroom instruction. Legal authority. Report writing. Threat recognition, defensive tactics, firearms fundamentals, medical response, communication, coordination, procedure. Everything is structured like the agency itself is a machine, and you are being shaped into a moving part that won't fail when the temperature rises. Some people show up thinking they'll be action heroes. They don't last, because there's no room here for people who want excitement. The job is about reducing excitement, killing chaos before it grows teeth. The instructors put you into scenario after scenario where the plan breaks. That's the entire point. They want to watch your brain under pressure. Can you follow instruction when the room is loud? Can you keep your hands steady when someone is screaming? Can you identify a problem quickly without tunnel vision? You learn that protection isn't one skill. It's a stack of small skills layered together until they look like instinct. You learn how to move with a team without bumping into each other, how to communicate without shouting, how to watch a crowd without looking like you're watching a crowd, how to control your breathing so you don't look scared even when you are, how to notice the one person who doesn't match the atmosphere. They drill you on discipline, not toughness. Discipline, because toughness gets you hurt. Discipline keeps you useful. You also learn the other truth. There's an investigative side of the agency that most people don't talk about. Financial crimes, fraud, counterfeiting, identity theft, cyber cases. The Secret Service didn't start as presidential protection. It started as a response to money being attacked. The agency protects trust systems, currency, institutions, leadership. If those systems collapse, the country shakes. That's why your training isn't only about standing in suits. It's about thinking, observing, documenting, testifying, being calm in rooms where everyone else is emotional. Some trainees crack. Not because they're weak, because the pressure isn't a single big moment. It's a slow, constant grind. It's being watched all the time. It's being corrected all the time. It's never getting to relax. It's realizing there are no off days in a job that revolves around other people's worst days. The trainees who survive aren't always the strongest. They're the ones who can take feedback without taking it personally. The ones who can stay steady, the ones who can do something stressful, mess up, and immediately correct it without spiraling. Graduation doesn't feel like a victory lap. It feels like being handed a weight. You get your assignment, and now you're an agent, but you still aren't anywhere near the president. Level 3, the new agent. Your first posting usually isn't glamorous. It's a field office. It's paperwork. It's evidence lockers. It's sitting in a room with a computer while your friends imagine you're on rooftops. You learn quickly that the Secret Service is two worlds wearing one badge. One world is protection, the other is investigation. As a new agent, there's a strong chance you start in investigations. You work financial crimes that most people don't realize are federal-level threats until they get burned by them. Counterfeit currency, stolen card data, organized fraud crews, digital theft, schemes that move millions quietly because the criminals aren't loud. They're systematic. They're patient. They're professional. Your days turn into patterns. Briefings, leads, interviews, surveillance requests, coordination with other agencies. You write reports that nobody outside the system will ever read. You go to court. You testify. You build cases the slow way, because the slow way holds up when lawyers start tearing it apart. At this level, you learn the first real skill that matters in protection: pattern recognition. The public imagines danger as a sudden event, but most threats have a prequel, a series of small signals, a trail, a behavior shift, a purchase pattern, an online obsession, a grievance that keeps repeating, a person who escalates from fantasy to preparation. Your investigative work teaches you to look for the prequel. You learn that normal is a baseline, and anything that breaks the baseline is worth attention. You also learn what responsibility feels like when it's real, not cool job responsibility, real responsibility, the kind that involves signing your name under a report, and knowing that if you're wrong, someone innocent pays the price. You close your first big case. Maybe it's a counterfeit crew printing passable bills. Maybe it's a fraud ring draining accounts. Maybe it's an identity theft network with dozens of victims. The details don't matter as much as the effect. You realize the system is fragile, and criminals survive by exploiting small gaps. Then you get the email that shifts you to the other world, protection work, and suddenly everything you thought you were training for becomes smaller, sharper, faster. Level 4, the advance agent. This is where the job starts looking like the public image, but the reality is still different. You become an advance agent, which means you arrive before the protectee does. You don't get applause. You get responsibility. Your job is to walk into a place and see it the way a threat would see it. Not because you're paranoid, because you have to be realistic. Your work is planning, coordination, and relentless detail. You meet venue staff. You meet local law enforcement. You build relationships fast because you don't have time. You ask questions that make people uncomfortable because comfort isn't the mission. Where are the entrances? Where are the exits? What doors are supposed to be locked? Who has keys? Who has access? Who is on staff today that wasn't on staff yesterday? Who's subcontracted? Who's temporary? Who's unvetted? Who's angry? Who's exhausted? Who's careless? You start living by one principle. Most disasters aren't masterminds. They're mistakes. A door propped open, a credential that wasn't checked, a hallway that wasn't monitored, a staffer who didn't follow instructions because it seemed fine. This level teaches you humility. You can't control everything, but you can control preparation, and preparation is what separates normal day from headline. You build contingency plans. You map alternatives. You coordinate timing. You learn how to keep events moving without letting the schedule crush the security. You also learn the political reality. Everyone wants access. Everyone wants closeness. Everyone wants a photo, a handshake, a moment. And your job is to say no without turning it into a fight. Because the hardest part of protection isn't a dramatic threat. It's human behavior. It's impatience, ego, entitlement, the unspoken belief that rules should bend for important people. At this level, you start to understand why agents seem so calm on camera. It's not because nothing is happening. It's because calm is the tool. Calm is how you stop panic from spreading through a crowd. Calm is how you keep a protectee from making a sudden decision that forces the whole team into improvisation. You do your job right, and the event looks effortless. You do it wrong, and everyone notices. And once you've proven you can do advance, they move you to where the pressure is constant. Level 5, the protection detail agent. Now you're on the detail. This is the suit and earpiece world. The part people film. The part people meme. The part people think is simple. It isn't. You stand near someone important and you realize something strange. The closer you are to power, the more ordinary it looks up close. Meetings, schedules, delays, staff arguments, human fatigue, bad jokes, real stress. And your job is to protect a human being, not a symbol. That means you protect someone who gets distracted, someone who gets impatient, someone who wants to greet crowds, someone who doesn't like being told no, someone who might decide last second to change the plan because the cameras are rolling and they want the moment. You learn to scan without looking like you're scanning. You learn to read posture and intent. You learn to watch hands more than faces. You learn to recognize when a crowd shifts for no obvious reason. You learn to feel when the atmosphere changes, like the air gets heavier. You also learn that most of your work is quiet prevention. It's distance, positioning, timing and control. It's guiding people without humiliating them. It's moving a protectee without making them feel pushed. It's staying alert while looking relaxed. You start building the mental skill that defines the job. Constant attention without panic. Because panic is contagious. And if you panic, you spread it. At this level, the days get longer. Travel becomes routine. Sleep becomes a luxury. Meals happen whenever they can. Your social life starts shrinking because your schedule belongs to someone else now. Your family gets used to you missing things. Birthdays, weddings, holidays. You tell yourself it's temporary. You tell yourself it's the job. And then something happens. Maybe not an attack, not a movie scene, but a moment that reminds you what you're really doing. A sudden rush in a crowd. An unexpected breach of a boundary. A person moving the wrong way at the wrong time. A protectee stopping when they were supposed to keep moving. Your body reacts before your mind finishes processing why. Afterward, it's quiet again. The cameras keep rolling. The schedule continues. And that's when it hits you. If you do your job perfectly, nobody will ever know how close the problem was. But you'll know, and the job will keep asking for more. Level 6, the presidential detail. This is the assignment most agents talk about quietly, because saying it out loud still feels strange. The Presidential Protective Division. You don't apply for this assignment. You earn it. Years of work, clean performance reviews, supervisors who trust your judgment when things get chaotic. Then one day you get the message. You're being transferred to the presidential detail. The schedule changes overnight. The president does not have a normal life, which means neither do you. You wake up before sunrise because the motorcade rolls early. You arrive at the White House before the first staff meeting begins. Security briefings, route reviews, threat updates, coordination with military aides, communication checks. Every movement the president makes has a security structure wrapped around it. Every room is swept. Every vehicle is inspected. Every person entering the perimeter is vetted. You memorize the building quickly. Corridors, stairwells, emergency exits, underground tunnels, vehicle bays. The White House is not just a building. It's a maze designed for movement during emergencies. You also learn something unexpected. The hardest part of protecting the president is not external threats. It's unpredictability. Presidents shake hands with strangers. They walk into crowds. They stop to talk when the schedule says keep moving. They lean over rope lines to greet people because cameras are watching and politics rewards warmth. And every time that happens, the risk multiplies. Your job becomes anticipation. You read body language. You read crowds. You read the president himself. If he slows down, you move closer. If the crowd pushes forward, you tighten the formation. If someone moves suddenly, your brain starts calculating distance, speed, intent. You never relax, even when the moment feels safe, especially when the moment feels safe, because history has already shown what happens when protection fails. You travel constantly. Domestic trips, international summits, campaign events, emergency briefings, Air Force One, helicopters, motorcades that stretch for blocks. Every trip means another team of agents already arrived days earlier preparing the ground. Every trip means new local police departments, new buildings, new rooftops, new unknowns. You learn how fragile security really is. It only takes one mistake, one missed signal, one person willing to die for attention, and suddenly the entire world changes. Level 7. The counter-assault side. Most Secret Service agents stay focused on protection, but some move toward the sharper edge of the mission. Counter-assault team support. These are the agents who exist for the worst possible scenario. Their job is simple. If something goes wrong, they run toward the gunfire. While the protection detail evacuates the president, the counter-assault team engages the threat. You begin training differently now. More firearms, more tactical coordination, more scenario drills where everything breaks at once. Vehicle attacks, active shooters, explosive threats, ambushes along motorcade routes. The instructors push speed and aggression because hesitation costs seconds. Seconds cost lives. The training is exhausting because the margin for error is microscopic. You practice drawing your weapon under stress until the movement becomes automatic. You practice clearing rooms. You practice moving through chaos with a team that has to trust each other without hesitation. You also practice losing. Instructors create scenarios where the protectee is already injured, where the attacker has already fired, where the evacuation route is blocked. Because in the real world, things don't wait for perfect timing. Your brain starts thinking differently. You stop imagining heroic moments. You start imagining worst-case scenarios. What angle would the shooter use? What position gives you cover? What object stops bullets? What direction moves the protectee fastest? You think about these questions constantly, even when you're off duty, even when you're standing in a grocery store line, because once your brain learns to scan for threats, it never fully stops. And the strange truth about this level is that if the counter-assault team ever has to do its job in public, something has already gone terribly wrong. Level 8, the supervisor. After years on the road, the agency begins moving you upward. Your knees ache from standing too long. Your sleep schedule has been broken for years. You've spent more time in hotels than in your own house. So your role changes. You become a supervisor. Now you're responsible for teams instead of just yourself. Agents come to you with problems. Advance plans need approval. Staffing needs adjustments. Threat reports need evaluation. You read intelligence summaries every morning. Online threats. Protest plans. Unstable individuals posting about violence. Most threats are noise, but the few real ones hide inside the noise. Your job is deciding which ones deserve attention. You also deal with politics now. Not national politics. Agency politics. Local police departments wanting more control. Event organizers pushing for easier access. Staffers asking for last-minute changes that disrupt security plans. You spend more time in meetings than in motorcades. And you discover something surprising. Leadership in the Secret Service is not glamorous. It's stressful, because if an agent under your command makes a mistake, the responsibility points back to you. You sign reports. You approve operations. You make decisions that determine where agents stand and where they move. If everything works, nobody remembers your name. If something fails, everyone does. And that weight follows you home at night. Level 9, the senior official. At this level, you are no longer thinking about individual events. You are thinking about the entire system. National security events, political conventions, inaugurations, state funerals, foreign leaders visiting American cities. These operations involve thousands of people. Secret Service agents, local police, military support, emergency medical teams, intelligence agencies. Every detail must fit together like machinery. You sit in conference rooms filled with maps and timelines. You discuss threat environments. You discuss vulnerabilities. You discuss contingency plans for disasters nobody wants to imagine. drones entering restricted airspace, vehicle attacks in crowded streets, cyber threats disrupting communications. Someone asks the same question in every meeting: what happens if the plan fails? Because protection work is built on a brutal truth. You cannot eliminate every risk. You can only reduce it. So you plan layers, perimeters, screening zones, rapid response units, evacuation routes, medical facilities, backup communications. Every layer exists to buy time, time for agents to react, time for the protectee to escape, time for chaos to be contained. The public sees a speech or a parade. You see a structure holding the moment together, and sometimes late at night you realize how fragile that structure really is. Level 10, the ghost. Eventually the career ends, not because the mission ended, because time did. You retire after decades in the agency, decades of motorcades, threat briefings, airport security sweeps, crowded rallies, foreign summits. There is a small ceremony. Some colleagues attend. A few speeches are given. They talk about service. They talk about dedication. They talk about protecting the office of the presidency. Then it's over. You go home, and something strange happens. Your brain doesn't stop scanning. You still sit in restaurants facing the door. You still notice exits first. You still watch hands more than faces. Crowds make you uncomfortable. Not because you're afraid, because you spent your entire career studying how quickly crowds can turn dangerous. Most people move on easily after retirement, but protection work leaves habits behind. Hyper-awareness, sleepless nights, memories of moments where things almost went wrong, moments the public never saw, moments that would have changed history. You realize the public image of the Secret Service was always incomplete. People picture sunglasses and suits. They picture dramatic dives in front of bullets. They don't picture the quiet sacrifices, the missed holidays, the years spent on the road, the constant responsibility of protecting people who carry enormous political power. Your career disappears quietly, but the job continues. Because somewhere right now, someone is filling out the application, typing their name, typing their work history, dreaming about standing near power, dreaming about an exciting career. They imagine motorcades and world leaders and important moments. They don't imagine the pressure. They don't imagine the sleepless nights. They don't imagine the responsibility of standing between history and disaster. But they will learn. Every agent does. And the cycle begins again.